Hi, I'm Dominic, here today interviewing Ms. Holcomb,
Hello.
science teacher, and we'd like to ask you a few questions about your other job, or your second job. Basically.
Perfect.
What kind of, I heard you've run a podcast, is that correct? What kind of podcast is it?
It's a podcast for teachers and busy moms, basically trying to help them take efficiency and productivity principles and put that into their lives, because I came from an engineering background, so I learned all about how companies are efficient and productive, and it saves them millions and billions of dollars and hours, and then nobody ever teaches the average person that thing, and teachers and parents are overwhelmed all the time, so figured I should help.
That's nice. When did you start doing the podcast?
I started my podcast in July of last year, so only been around about 6 months.
Right.
It's doing pretty well so far.
Nice. What do you say it's like to run more than one job?
Well, when I was in college, I was paying for college as I was in school. So like my last semester, I took 23 credit hours. The recommended is like 15. That was spread over 3 different colleges that I had to pay tuition to. So I also had 5 part-time jobs. So I've always been extra busy, and I kind of just, I don't like to sit.
Yeah.
When I sit, I feel like I'm just not doing enough.
Why do you run more than one job?
So I graduated with an engineering degree, and I worked in the engineering field for a while. I paid off all my debt and then shifted into education because that's what I really wanted to do. But there is a gap there between what I had been making and what I am making now. And to support my family, I have a couple online shops, like an Etsy that I do designs on, and I do sell resources digitally for some people, and that just brings in a little bit extra, so I can go get Starbucks or go to Target if I want to.
Yeah. Do you like using Etsy a lot, or how long have you used it for?
I have been on Etsy since 2012, I think. I never had put a whole lot of effort and energy into it, and it's changed a lot. Right now I sell like nerdy science clothes. So
right.
that's what I design most of.
Are there any like crazy stories you had with your podcast, or just?
My podcast is still pretty new, so like nothing absolutely ridiculous has happened, and I don't have a lot of guests on, but there's just a lot of work and energy that goes into starting up any of these things. So like to make money selling on Etsy, you have to also learn Pinterest and marketing and search engine optimization and how to take pictures and make sure that you're doing Pinterest right. And then if you're doing like digital resources, you also have to learn how to promote those. So like I run an Instagram, I've got about 13,000 followers on there that I've been building up over time. And that takes a lot of work, a lot of energy, and also a lot of coursework. So I take a lot of classes in my free time. And to start the podcast, I signed up for another course on how to get that all set up so I can edit my own things and create the graphics for it, do the show notes, do all the promotions, put that all on my website. There's a lot of behind the scenes steps that have to go into making anything actually make money. Like I can't just put something up on Etsy and then get sales, because a lot of people are there. So you have to know how to stand out.
You're very busy.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add on before the end?
No, I think that, a lot of teachers have very interesting side jobs because we're also really good at having an understanding of what people need, or how like we can help people out, or like we're really good at interacting with people. So like mine comes from the necessity of feeling like I just don't want to be overwhelmed by having too much to do all the time. So I try to work on simplifying and sharing that with other people because I understand the teaching side of things. So I think that teachers lend themselves really well to being able to work in a whole bunch of different areas. And so that's kind of always kept me going, is like, I know I have the ability to do this, so why not help other people?
All right. Thank you again for letting us interview you, Ms. Holcomb. To you. All right, today we're interviewing Mr. Ben Carroll. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He's a counselor and also an Uber driver.
That's right.
You wanted to interview you just to ask you a couple questions. Is that good?
Yep.
All right. How long have you been Uber driving for?
So I started in 2020, actually, when COVID hit, which is kind of a weird time to start driving people around, but it was that summer. And I was just wanting to, get some extra money for fun. And I was like, I got a car that gets like 40 miles to the gallon, so why not? And I like people. So I drove probably 10 trips in the summer, just 10 like nights basically, and that was it. And then I didn't drive again till last fall, 2022. So it's kind of like you can keep it. You can keep like your driver status and then renew it whenever you start back up again. So it's kind of cool. You can leave it dormant for a while and then just start it back up. Yeah.
What makes you said you do it for fun, like for more fun money.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to, have you had any crazy stories from it?
It started off pretty normal. The pandemic was weird because you had to wear a mask and everyone was masked, right? And it felt safer that way, but I also felt a little uneasy sometimes. Like, I got some people and they were a little sick and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should be doing this, This is really stupid. I don't know. But last fall, I had a guy who was definitely out and about for the whole night, doing his thing, and he was an older guy and he was pretty crabby. And I mean, he was just like, he asked me a question. And if you've ever been in a cab or a taxi or Uber, like sometimes you have conversations with them, right? Like, and he asks me a question and I start to answer it, and then he interrupts me and he's like, I hope you're not talking to me because I'm not listening to you. And I was like, but you asked me the question. Like, I don't think I was just talking for no reason. And I ended up driving this guy to a different place than he requested because he said he forgot his shaving bag. He was out of town. And he's like, oh, I don't need to go to the hotel. Take me to this oyster bar. And I was like, oh. And he said, I left my shaving bag there. And I was like, one, so many questions. Why is your toothbrush bag at a bar? And two, what am I supposed to do after that? So then he made me drive around. He didn't make me do anything. I chose to because I knew he'd pay me a lot of money. He's like, drive me off here and then drive me back to the hotel. So he said, just drive around the alley. Just drive in a circle. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it and see what happens. So I drove around this place in downtown. It's by Busch Stadium. And I drove down an alley around, and then I found him. His name was Daniel or something. And I come back and I see him, and I mean, he is intoxicated for sure. I think I can say that professionally. And so he's just kind of walking on the sidewalk. I think he forgot who I was and who his Uber driver was. So I just rolled down my window and I'm on a main road that's 3 lanes, but we're all in traffic. And I just rolled down. I was like, David, or whatever. And he's like, yep, I'm coming. And then he walks into the street in front of a car and just opens my door, and it's locked because I unlocked my door. And then he ended up paying me cash to get back to his hotel. So he didn't actually register the ride. So hopefully this doesn't go to Uber because then they know I illegally drove that guy. But anyways, yeah. So he actually, the second ride, he paid cash. It was very interesting.
That is very interesting.
He was a Blackhawks fan, hockey from Chicago, so I know, right? I gave him some crap, and that's when he got crabby. And I was like, all right, I'm just kidding, man. You're super
You got butt hurt?
Yeah. So that was probably the most interesting one. I had a really bad encounter with Uber Eats, and I hate that, so I don't do that anymore.
Oh, you did Uber Eats?
I did, in 2020. And a kid didn't get his food. He was probably 15 or 16, and he didn't get his ice cream with his food, and it was Burger King's fault, not mine. And I mean, the kid made me call Uber company, and it was 12:30 at night in downtown, and his house was in a semi-unsafe area, and I was on the phone with Uber for 20 minutes, and they ended up paying me $10 extra on top of the trip for the hassle I had to go through with that kid. So I ended up giving that kid extra food from an order that got canceled. I was like, hey man, I have a McDonald's bag in my driver's seat. And I'm like, I promise this is not my food. You can see the receipt. It's from an order that was placed accidentally from Michigan in St. Louis. And they live in Michigan. And I was like, you can have all this food. It was $13 or $14 worth of McDonald's food, value menu. I was like, I'll just give you this if you just let me. Can I just go home?
That's crazy.
Yeah. He was the worst. So those are my crazy stories. They're not like positive, I guess.
Yeah.
The older guy was more fun.
Oh yeah.
The kid was a little jerk.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I meet a lot of fun people. So.
What's it like to run more than one job? You said you only do it in the summer though?
No, I was doing this last fall. So like when you guys were in school, like I would leave school, go home. I have 2 kids, so I will, help with them, and then I go out like 8 p.m. and then sometimes I'll Uber to like 1 or 12:30. Just depends how much like caffeine I drink, and then just go till I'm tired. It's a lot when I feel like I need to do it. Like sometimes when money's tight, I'm like, like I'll go for the weekend. But, Fridays, if I try to do it, it sucks because I'm like, end of the week, it was like crazy. And I, don't want to do anything that night, but just lay down and go to sleep. So Saturdays aren't bad. You guys, like weekends, you might rest. I rest too.
Yeah.
And then so Saturday night, I feel pretty good. But some weekends I get more energy. I have more energy, than others. But... I work basketball games here too. So like if I'm doing that, like sometimes like this Friday, I work one, like I'm not going to Uber that night because I'm just zonked.
Yeah.
From being here since like 6:45 in the morning till like 8 at night.
Very busy, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That was it though. Thank you for the nice interview. Again, we're interviewing Ben Carroll.
No problem.
That's it. All right. Today we're interviewing Mr.
Schrader.
Mr. Schrader. And we're interviewing about second jobs. So what job do you have? That's second job?
So in the summertime and during the spring, I do small engine repair. So like lawnmowers, trimmers, hedge trimmers, etc.
Why do you run a second job?
It's a nice little way to make extra money, especially in the summer when I just have basically my kids to watch. I have a little bit of free time. So I just pick up small engines that people get rid of and resell them on the Facebook market.
That's nice. What's it like to have just like that job? Like, is it easy, would you say?
It's kind of, the coolest thing about it is that people will get rid of them for free. And so you have $0 into it, and usually with 15-20 minutes of work, you can get them running again and sell them for a decent profit. So it's kind of cool seeing that.
Oh yeah.
It's nice. I can do it at home too, so I don't have to be from home.
Do you have any like crazy stories or anything to share?
Not so crazy, but to me it's crazy. People will get rid of a $400 piece of equipment just because it has bad fuel in it. So literally changing the fuel will be enough to get it running, and they got rid of something that was so expensive.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy to me, but probably not terribly interesting.
Oh yeah. How long have you run the engine repair?
This is my 4th year doing it.
Alright. That was it though. Today, again, we're interviewing Mr. Schrader. We're here with Miss Bundra, a Spanish teacher. She's also a Blues cheerleader coach. We're just going to interview very quick. Is that good?
Yeah.
Alright. What made you decide to have a second job like that?
So I've been a competitive dancer my entire life, and I just miss dancing, and I wanted a way to get back into it.
Alright. Was it hard to try out for the Blues?
So trying out to be a cheerleader for the St. Louis Blues is a 4-day tryout. The first day you have an interview and a photo shoot. After each day, they cut like 20% of contestants. So after I had my interview and my photo shoot, the second day I had a skating tryout where I had to ice skate for a few hours. The third day I had a dance tryout, and then the 4th day they just put us in the arena and they were kind of looking at our energy and how we would interact with fans. And then it was after that 4th day of tryouts that they let us know that we made the team. So.
Are there any other teachers on the team?
Yeah, so there are 3 teachers, including myself, on the team. One other teacher is also a high school teacher, and one is an elementary school teacher.
All right. What is your favorite thing about just cheerleading for me?
I really like being on the team because it provides me with a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have, a lot of really cool experiences, and the opportunity to meet a lot of really awesome men and women outside of school.
All right. Just last question. Does cheerleading ever interfere with your teaching at all?
So it doesn't really interfere with teaching because it's after school hours. However, I also coach the dance team here, so sometimes there are some conflicts between our practice times, but I've been able to make it work.
All right. That was it. Thank you again for this interview.